We're going to call the meeting to order. Mr. Platt, can you take roll?
OSBA.
Here.
Tom Heck. Here. Scott Fishel. Here. Belinda Grassi.
Here.
Jennifer Hart.
Here. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome all students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Board of Education held in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public comment during the meeting in the public participation section on the agenda. First action is to approve minutes. So we have a motion to approve the minutes as attached. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I was not here for that meeting, so I'm going to go ahead and abstain from it just so you know why.
Any other discussion? All right, Mr. Placco, can you call the roll?
Belinda Grassi.
Aye.
Jennifer Hart.
Abstain.
Larry Kniske.
Aye.
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, that brings us to special reports.
Thank you, Mrs. Grassi. We do have a special report today. We have a young man from Lamuth here who participated in the Young Marine Program, which was a program I just learned about this year, and I thought it was quite an achievement for this young man to have gone through this program, and so I invited him here to be recognized by our board. And he also has a couple of program leaders here that are going to talk about the program. So Young Marine Private Aiden Coulter, again, is a 7th grader at Lamuth Middle School. He enrolled in the Greater Lake County Young Marines based in Menor as a recruit in July 2021, graduating as a private in February 2022. Private Coulter joined the Young Marines program because he has an interest in enlisting in the military when he graduates from high school and wanted to get a taste of the military experience before he commits. That's the plan for you. Once in the military, Private Coulter hopes to focus on military police and eventually having a career in law enforcement. In his spare time, Private Coulter enjoys outdoor activities and volunteering at the Leroy VFW. Two other representatives from the Greater Lake County Young Marines are here with us tonight, Mr. Sickles and also Mr. Cook. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Sickles, who will talk about the Young Marines program. And Aiden, if you can come up, I know there's a lot of people here today, they're not going to bite you. Come on up.
Want to say anything? No. All right, my name's Phil Sickles. I'm with the Greater Lake County Young Marines. I don't know if anybody's heard of them before, but we've been around. This is probably our 20th year we're getting ready to start. So I started the unit back in 2003, and what we do is we basically go over or teach kids leadership principles. The leadership principles that we learned in the Marine Corps, okay? And what we're not is we're not a paramilitary group, okay? We don't teach combat skills. We're not taking them out and shooting any guns or anything like that. But we teach character building, self-discipline, leadership, and teamwork. Those are our core principles. And we work hard and we play hard, okay? The discipline aspect has to be there. If it's there, then we start working on the character building. We want these young kids to be leaders and not followers. We want them to make good decisions, especially in the times where they're going through junior high school, and things like that. So that's what we focus on. We try to get some of the scare tactics out of there, like the public speaking. We teach them early how to public speak. So, in our program, in our unit alone, I've had females going to the United Nations and giving speeches to the women's delegates there. So here they are, you know, learning public speaking, and all of a sudden they're on stage, and they've done really good. Physical fitness, we promote the physical fitness. You know, we want them to build up their stamina, be able to react in difficult situations and things like that. Some of the things, another thing that we're not a scared straight program, okay? We want good kids. We want to try to get them around other good kids. And in doing that, then they develop that camaraderie with good kids, working with good kids. Homework, you know, when kids are coming into the program and they're not doing so well in school, guess what? I have a whole group where I have select kids that are doing good in different areas, and they can work with them. So a lot of positive things going on with the Young Marines program. So what I'm going to do, I know I can't take up a lot of time here. You guys look like you're ready to go. But I'll leave some brochures up here. It has our website. It has a little bit about what I talked about. And if you're interested, look up our website and kind of see what we do. And, you know, hope to see some of the kids there. So.
Thank you. And on behalf of the Board of Education, we want to present you with a certificate of recognition. Great job. Thank you. No more? Okay. All right, so that brings us to the discussion of old business. I think we had a few topics on our list.
Right.
You want to start?
Please. So I'm going to pass out a hard copy of the resolution. Can you pass those down? So every year, the Ohio School Board Association, of which Riverside School Board is a member of, they go out to the member school boards and ask if there's anything that should be updated regarding the platform for that organization, the Ohio School Board Association. And there are a number of things that platform drives, one of which is it drives the agenda for those lobbyists that OSBA hires to go to the State House and work with the legislatures in both the House and the Senate. So the time that they are looking to get feedback for the platform is May 31st, but we're a little ahead of schedule. And last month, I presented, just as a kind of a heads up to the other school board members, a platform which focuses on improving parental, or really transparency and parental rights. And so it is a resolution. And I won't read the whole thing because it's 5 pages, but I'll try to catch the highlights so that we can, everybody can understand. But it says, whereas the OSBA promotes and supports reforms that provide for a system of public schools that is accountable to the communities they serve and prepares students to be productive citizens in a competitive global society. Whereas, answering the call to action for OSBA, whereas while the current OSBA legislative platform contains students and learning, school governance, finance, and personnel flanks, there is no plank advocating for parental rights. So what this is that I will read this. There's 2 paragraphs, and then so people can get a better sense of what this is about. It's I'm on the 3rd page if you're following along, and it's parental rights. The parental right to know all aspects of students and learning, school governance, finance, and personnel is essential to a thorough and efficient system of public education as guaranteed by the Ohio Constitution and applicable laws. Parents are their children's first teachers and decision makers in education. Student learning is more likely to occur when there is an effective partnership between the school and parents. Greater parental involvement in the education of their children generally results in higher academic achievement, improved student behavior, and reduced absenteeism. By way of example, the OSBA continues to provide state and federal parental right to know laws that continue to foster the principles set forth by the Ohio State Board of Education in the Parent and Family Involvement Policy, as approved July 10th, 2007. And then there are 16 points that kind of draw out more detail, but I will not read all 16 points to you. But it's all about parental rights and transparency. And then specifically what this motion, if it passes, would do is the following. Now therefore, and I'm on page 5 now. Now therefore be it further resolved that the board president, treasurer, and superintendent shall jointly submit this resolution to the OSBA Executive Director, OSBA Legislative Services Director, OSBA officers, OSBA Executive Committee, OSBA Board of Trustees, and OSBA Legislative Platform Committee members, requesting that the requested parental right to know amendment be added to the OSBA Legislative Platform for immediate review and approval. Now therefore be it further resolved that the board president, treasurer, and superintendent shall jointly submit this resolution to all local, state, and federal elected officials representing the territory of the board. Now therefore be it further resolved that the board's delegate to the 2022 Delegate Assembly shall actively support and advocate for the adoption of the parental right to know amendment set forth in this resolution. And the last one, now therefore be it further resolved that this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and immediately upon its adoption by the board. So I know there's 5 pages. I didn't cover all of it. Hopefully you've had a time to go through and see if there are any questions. But I would make a motion to approve.
The motion is actually later in the agenda. So
Is it?
Yes, so we can just have discussion now.
Okay.
And then we'll approach it at the end of the agenda.
Okay?
Okay?
Terrific.
So I have some commentary on this. First of all, as you're reading on page 5, jointly submitted by the board president, treasurer, and the superintendent of this district. The superintendent and the treasurer of this district haven't weighed in on this, nor has our staff, nor any of our administration. I have a problem with that. We're bringing this, and we are here to ask the OSBA to add something to their platform agenda that we have not asked anyone, whether or not they have any input on this at all. I have an issue with that. I have an issue with, I'd like to know who wrote this resolution. This is not coming from you specifically, I'm quite certain, because this was written by some law firm, and I would like to know who's behind that and what political agenda they have in asking the OSBA to have this agenda platform item be even presented to them. To me, is not transparent, and I'm just making that as a statement. So I would like to know who's behind this as an agenda.
Okay, so this was written by McGowan and Markling, which is a law firm that represents a number of school districts in Ohio. And so that's why you can see that it was done professionally and certainly not by me. The point of transparency is not a partisan issue, so I guess I'm a little confused as to what you are pursuing. Are we about transparency or are we not? And certainly, from my perspective as a board member, my goal has always been to make Riverside basically the best value in Lake County, and that is from an academic perspective, from a financial perspective, and trying to create the environment where we graduate students into our society that have respect for the country, have knowledge, have critical thinking, and all the things that I do, whether inside or outside the school, are consistent with that. And so that's your answer.
My opinion on this is that this is coming from some political agenda somewhere, from some PAC or something that's promoting this as there's legislation already, in front of the House and Senate in Ohio that is already addressing these items. I don't feel that that's a transparent answer. When I'm talking about transparency, it's not about parental rights for me. It's about where this is coming from.
But it is about parental rights. So what do you think of parental rights in knowledge?
Tom, I just don't think that this is, I believe, we haven't even had respectful discussion with anyone in this district about this.
So,
as an
so
agenda.
to your point, everybody was copied on this. The administrators were copied on this. That was given it's been available for over a month. There has been no feedback from people. I suspect that they read the emails. So I guess I really am having a problem with you not embracing, frankly, transparency, because what potential hang-up could you have?
That we have not discussed this with the interested parties in this district. We have not had a work session to have a conversation about this. This is something that I believe that at the end of the day, if we are going to ask the OSBA to come across with platform agenda items, that this should be a unanimous decision between staff, administration, and board members, and I don't think that we have that communication yet.
Okay, well, Mrs. Grassi, I got to tell you, I'm a little disappointed. We've had this for a month. You have not advocated for any of those things.
We have had that, but the rest, nobody else has had.
They did. I sent it out to the Board of Education distribution. Okay, that absolutely has been out there for a month. If you had been uncomfortable with this, I wish you had reached out to me, and we could have had a better dialogue, and certainly some of the things you just talked about could have been alleviated.
And I
But
did ask that last meeting.
I don't recall that whatsoever. So, I mean, obviously we can go back and look at the video. But certainly I did try to be transparent. This has been out there for well over 30 days. And when it comes down to it, I don't think that the transparency and parental rights is a partisan issue. So I guess I'm wondering what you have against parental rights and transparency.
I don't have anything against parental rights.
Then we should not
no.
have any problems with this.
So I guess I just have a couple questions too, real quick. So how was that law firm introduced, and then how did we come about this particular resolution? Because again, I'm all for parental rights. I mean, I've been involved in the schools and involved as a parent, and I sit on this board as a parent. So I love parental rights. I love when we get participation. So I'm not against parental rights. I guess I'm just, as Mrs. Grassi, trying to understand how did the law firm get it, and then how did it fall into our, because we didn't have discussion, or we didn't incorporate our attorney into any kind of discussion. So I guess I'm just some of the same questions.
And good questions. So what happens is typically when there is something that goes before the OSBA, that would be for the platform committee, there is a single set of language that goes around. And so I have met with people who are consistent with the things that I just said earlier about what I'm trying to do. There was engagement with McAllen Markling, and they developed this particular proposal.
So I talked to the OSBA today because I just wanted to make sure that I understood what's the next steps and how this all progresses. So they said if we do adopt the resolution and we do send it through, again, it goes first of all to get approval to then be passed on to the OSBA conference and it has to pass by 75%. I guess what I want to make sure is that, even in reading this, one of my concerns that stood out is that, again, all for parent involvement. I mean, I'm sitting here again as a parent who's involved, obviously. I'm all for parent involvement, but I guess my concern is that there's got to be some parameters too for when the parent involvement is not, and maybe I'm not seeing that, or how we protect the other people in the district when parent involvement starts to hinder learning or stop us from accomplishing things that we want to do. So that's where my concern is, and I don't see it in here. And some of the language is very it's very encompassing. It's all of this, all of that, completely. And there's just a few pieces. And then the other piece is a lot of this we're already doing, right? So a lot of it we're already doing, like notifying parents of communicating with parents. I mean, we get a ton of communications I see daily, you know what I mean?
Right.
So a lot of it we're already doing. Some of it I think we're doing, but the wording just makes me nervous because it says all. It's like all encompassing. So what happens if we communicate but every parent doesn't say they received it? Like, I don't know, and that's how some of the language reads to me. So I guess that's my concern.
Okay, so although Riverside is doing some of the things that we're talking about, this would be, again, the goal of the purpose of the platform for the Ohio School Board Association is to be advocates down in the State House to pass legislation that is consistent with this. So in the end, this does not change our policies at all, right? So this is strictly, so I guess, I think in this, there is another layer of engagement, right? So say this gets through OSBA, gets through the conference in November, right, and is approved, then you go to engage the State House, right? And different concerns can be brought up, and there's an opportunity for people to speak when those bills are being reviewed. So that I think there are several steps along the way that could potentially change this in what you're talking about, in some of the issues you addressed. But if we do not pass this, then it calls into question whether or not the OSBA would actually pursue this as in essence, their marching orders.
And I guess I completely understand, but I guess I'm concerned if we give that broad of a view, does it tie our hands in situations where we need to do something? And we see that today in laws that are passed, right? So sometimes our hands are tied when we're trying to accomplish discipline or other things, you know what I'm saying? And I guess what I'm asking, is there any possibility that we could have discussed this as a board and had something put together
Okay.
about a parent call, you know what I'm saying?
So I guess and I appreciate your comment, but this has been out there for 30 days.
Great.
And I guess if there was dissension, not dissension, but if there were questions, I certainly wish that they had been brought up prior to our board meeting to have been addressed. But luckily, this is not due till the 31st. Right. So let us move forward and have those discussions. And we still have the opportunity to pass it before the deadline.
So we do have some time. So is there a time, are you guys any discussion or any?
I was just going to agree with what you said. I mean, I think this is all, as a parent, right? I've had kids in this district for 13 years now, an involved parent. This is extremely broad. And to your point, if it was something that we wanted to do, it would be drafted with our own attorneys, it'd be one thing. But I also have concern about where this suddenly came from. I'm not comfortable with it.
One of my concerns is there's some things in here that make sense, but maybe this is what I think our concern is. One of the items is ensure that all parents shall be notified of all instructional materials such as textbooks, reading materials, videos, digital materials, websites, apps used in their children's curriculum. You know how many books we have in our district? I mean, we can make them available if parents ask, but to say that we ensure that we're notifying them of every single piece of instructional material, that's impractical.
And
It's just too broad.
I would also like to address the fact that there's current legislation, again, in front of the Ohio State Legislature that is already addressing this issue, and it's extremely politically charged right now. And I don't believe that this type of a platform agenda lends itself to an objective opinion. I think there's some politicalness to it that I don't feel that we should be taking that stand right now. I think I'd rather let it play out in the legislature, and if you have advocacy concerns that you'd like to address, that you can go do that on your own as an individual, but I don't believe that we should be charging in that area at this time.
Well, I certainly agree that we need to approach this in a deliberate manner, and I would advocate for us to have a working session on this, but I guess whether, transparency is a nonpartisan issue, and if there are some issues within the platform that need to be tweaked, I think we can do that. But we are in a politically charged environment. I think there's no two ways about it, and we need to we represent the people, many of whom are here tonight, that we need to take this and try to make our environment as transparent as possible. And that if that's a partisan issue, then boy, that's really quite a statement. So at this point, I would like to move to a working session, and you were talking about the possibility of trying to set a date.
Yeah. Is everybody available would everybody be in, so there's a couple options here. We can let this go and not move to a working session and vote on it, or we can spend some time as a team and try to figure out if there's edits or changes to what's here that we would be comfortable with. Is everybody okay for a working session
I'm on vacation starting the 14th,
of May?
and I won't be here at the meeting because I'm still on vacation. And so I would appreciate it if we're going to have that conversation and we're going to have a vote, that we do that before I leave, because I would like to vote on this. So preferably, I'd just rather just vote on it this evening.
Would it make sense to create your own? I mean, if there are some things that all of the board agrees on, you might want to add it. This is a suggestion to the OSBA. We don't have to use this as a template. We use some of it, the ones that the board agrees on as a whole.
That's what I would be willing to talk about it and see if there's tweaks to the language that we can make that we're, like the statement you read, like, I think it's important for people to have the opportunity to see our curriculum, see our books, do what they, like, come in and look at them, that's fine, but I don't know, I think those all statements are what kind of make me nervous.
And I agree, 'cause I think the broadness of the entire thing is just,
Right.
it makes me uncomfortable.
Okay. And certainly, if we need to modify it to move it forward and get people comfortable, I'm certainly open to that.
So, Belinda, you would like us to, so we'll have to have a special meeting if we want to vote on this before you leave out of town? All right. So what's everybody's time looks like?
Right.
If we're talking about evenings, I have one free evening until May 31st. Literally. I would have to be in the morning unless, the only thing I have is Friday the 13th, if we're talking about evening. Literally.
Okay, so I am available on Friday the 13th.
I am not.
Well, like I said, I'm happy to do mornings, but I've got no evening available at all.
Okay, and I am flexible on the, I could accommodate my schedule. I am out of pocket. The 12th will be a challenge, but I could even meet in the morning then.
Yeah, we have a finance meeting on the 11th and buildings and grounds on the 10th.
And curriculum on the 9th, right? Yes. Let's look at my calendar, it's very changed.
All right, so
I could do the morning of the 13th. Is anybody available the morning of the, if you leave? 14th. Oh.
So let me ask this. I mean, even looking at next week, and I'm sorry that everybody has to listen to our scheduling here, but
Well, we can certainly put an email together too and try to get a date if we have to. Because we're going to need to have our administration there as well.
right.
So their feedback.
So the 13th is a potential day. Is there any, just so that we can accelerate the email chain, are there any out of bound days or unavailability the week of the 2nd?
If we're talking about mornings, yes.
On the week of what? The 7th?
2nd.
Oh, the 7th. No.
So I do have great flexibility the week of the 2nd, morning and evening.
So I can make 2nd, 3rd, or 4th work in the morning.
Is there anybody who's, and again,
Apologize.
right, but is anybody who's out on the week of the 2nd, then we can specify, if we have some availability that overlaps, then maybe we can take the details to email to schedule the actual meeting.
I definitely could not do Thursday morning.
Neither can I. Can anyone do the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th?
I'm good those days.
Mr. Fischel?
I will make myself available when it's good for everybody else.
I'm sorry, I know you could either the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, any of those days?
So we'll start with those and get into our administration so we can make sure that everyone who needs to be there can be there too.
So when we go to move, so we have to make a motion to move the meeting or move that vote? So we can just postpone it with an unknown date at this time?
Yeah.
Okay. And we should do that when we come to that portion of the agenda? Or should we just do it right
We can do it
now?
right now, this motion to postpone that to a future special meeting.
Okay. Do you want to make that?
Sure, I make a motion to move the meeting and vote on the OSBA platform plan to a future meeting as determined by availability.
A second.
Any discussion? Mr. Placco, can you call the roll?
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Belinda Grassi,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Great. I know you also had, in regards to policy 0175.2, you were asking some questions. I don't know if those were answered.
We had passed that in a previous meeting. I was just inquiring as to when it would be posted on our set of
Neola has it,
policies.
so they'll post it
Neola has
as soon
it?
as they get around to it.
Probably in the next policy reading.
No, it'll be next couple of days. It just, we send it through as a separate policy. And so they're just basically the process, and then once we add it to the Word doc site, so it should be within the next couple of days.
Okay. We also have as old business, the board self-evaluation. I just pulled a copy of since we said we were going to commit to doing this and we kind of stalled, but as we come around to doing the Dr. Kalis's and Mr. Placco's evaluations, it would be a good time for us to confirm what do we want to take a look at over time to make sure we as a board are working effectively. So I made a copy of this board. It's just a standard one for something for us to begin our discussions about. So I just brought it for review. Thank you. And I figured we can set a working session when we start talking about evaluations, and we can set and say, do we want changes or do we want to make any additions to it? Everybody okay with that?
Yep, no, that makes sense.
All right. And then we also want to talk, one of the topics that keeps coming up is the arrangement of our board agenda and trying to put the committees closer to the consent agenda, the committee reports closer to the consent agenda. One of the things that does is it puts the public participation before we give any kind of reports from the committees that might sometimes answer the public questions. So we just wanted to toss that out to the board for discussion to say, do we want to make a change still? Are we okay with just open public discussion before we give those updates that might answer people's questions? And just get thoughts on leave it the same or let's consider that change. Does that make sense?
I'm good either way.
You're good either way?
I'm neutral on that.
Okay. Mrs. Grassi, Ms. Harden, or Mr. Fischel?
I'm neutral also.
I mean, I think that let's be honest, generally speaking, we don't have so much public participation typically, right? But in the times that we do, and certainly in some of our bigger meetings in the past, I think that it could be helpful to be able to hear some of the things that, to your point, things do get answered later. I don't see any harm in it, short of the fact that it forces people to stay longer if they don't really want to. But I'm fine with it either way. It doesn't make that much of a difference to me.
Yeah, I could go either way as far as these go.
Okay, so, I mean, if there's no real push from changing it, we'll leave it the same?
Yeah, I move that. Although, Mr. Krasinski, I mean, is this something you feel strongly about?
No, it was brought up multiple times during other conversations. Like, it was one of those things I just wanted to make sure we finished our discussion on so it didn't continue to come up.
I think we had moved the finance portion closer to.
We previously moved the finance committee with the treasurer update at the same time because they generally overlap each other. And we thought about moving the other committees to right with the consent agendas, but that would put all the committee updates and discussion after public participation, which would sometimes would alleviate their questions from the public. They would have been answered as updates that would now come after that time instead of.
So it was just that I wanted to make sure we closed the loop on so it didn't keep
We have
resurfacing.
plenty of witnesses that we discussed it, and
It's done.
we're good to go.
All right, any other old business that I did not have marked down? Was there anything else?
There was one thing that I saw in here that I just wanted to question. I've had a couple people ask me, so I saw that 6th grade camp is back on here, which is so exciting to see if those kids get to do that again. A couple people had reached out to me that we've had a few of our grade levels that missed everything, right, through COVID. And that if we were considering trying to add, at any point, trips for some of those grade levels that didn't get any of the things. You know, we've got grades that didn't get 6th grade camp. Well, Tracy, right? Our kids' grade, right? No 6th grade camp, no Chicago trip, no DC trip, but didn't get anything. So I don't know if there's been any consideration about trying to add a trip in.
Part of the reasons why some of these larger trips, you have to plan so far in advance And the cost was somewhat prohibitive when we were still having some COVID issues, because there was a question whether or not you have 2-door room or 4-door room. That in itself makes a big difference in how much that trip would cost. So a lot of those trips were canceled. We were trying to hang on so long as we can before we would lose money. But unfortunately, these companies wanted everything up front, or at least some money. Principals know that in those particular cases, and I think one is at Lamouth, that they're going to plan a day for the kids that missed out on the larger trips, almost like a fun day type of situation. And we're getting some people to help along with the teachers and staff to run those programs. So it may not be a trip to Chicago or Washington, D.C., unfortunately, but we are, again, trying to get back to that. I think on tonight's agenda, you're going to see that there's going to be a trip that we're asking the board to approve for next year's Disney trip for our band. And I don't think they've gone since 2018 or 19. So we're getting back to it. Unfortunately, it was just a residual effects of trying to second guess what it's going to look like in the spring.
Well, no, like I said, that's why I was just curious. If you said they're doing things at Lamouth, are we, I guess to that point, doing anything for those other, like I said, I know for a fact our 8th graders missed all 3. Because 6th grade camp got canceled right there when COVID started, so they missed out on everything. So I just didn't know if we were considering anything like that for their freshman year or sophomore year or something like that, which is untraditional, but would still give them one of those experiences that those kids look forward to, right? My younger kids, my older kids, I should say, love 6th grade camp and those kind of things, and they're big,
Is there anyone here from Lamouth that can speak a little bit more clearly than what I was? Go ahead.
So there is going to be, as far as we're aware, a 7th grade day planned, and I know that Lost Nation and Jonathan Breach, who originally was in charge of the trip, has been kind of spearheading that.
I heard there was some talk about Kalahari and some other places as well, Cedar Point. But okay.
Do you know if anything's happening? I think Mrs. Harden was asking about 8th grade too.
I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything. I was just happy to hear that we had enough students that were confident enough to go to the camp. And for a while there we weren't sure if we were going to have enough students, but we do have enough now. I don't think, is Monica here? No, okay. Yeah, so let's get back to that.
Sure. That's a great experience for them.
Thank you.
Any other old business? I think we have a few things that are on the new business list. Anybody want to kick it off? Mrs. Rossi?
There was one, this is just a brief one, that there's a House Bill 601, which is sitting somewhere out there in the legislature that would have the potential to increase STRS on behalf of the board. If I'm not mistaken, it's just the board portion.
Just the board.
Just the board portion from 14 to 18%, which would be phased in over 8 years. And I asked Mr. Platko if that were to pass, what that would cost our district. It was concerning to me that's a hefty increase, and I had asked him how much that would cost us, and you had about $2 million.
Yeah, I'm trying to find, I was going to print it off before this.
I'm sorry.
I think it was 2.3 million.
It was
What's
in
its
excess of
fully
$2 million annually that would affect us, and again, phased in over 8 years. Again, it's not passed, it's sitting out there, it's concerning. That's a big hefty increase to district expenditures, so I'm just keeping an eye on that. So that was something that I just wanted us to be aware of as under new business. The second thing I wanted to bring up, we received an email this morning. I would think it was this morning. I did not read it till this afternoon. It was concerning to me, and it had to do with some, entry to our facility over the weekend. I would like to just again reiterate what we have discussed at previously amongst board members and what our expectations are of one another, and that we should all have some respect for our administration if we want to enter the facility, you know, and bring a cadre of individuals into the facility with a camera, that we should respect our administration and ask them for that permission. They have said repeatedly that they would, you know, be happy to give people tours if they so desired. I know that members of our community are upset about that, and I just wanted to address it, and I thought that was a concern for safety, security, risk, and liability. But on so many levels, and that email for me was extremely eye-opening and concerning to me, so I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the board.
With that as well, I wanted to ask Rich too, I mean, when it comes to the weekend in that building, how would someone like, someone said they got permission from a janitor to walk in, so do our staff know that we don't?
My understanding was that the individual, the custodian in question, was told that there was a board member and they were allowed in the building, so they let them in.
I would just like to, again, go back to the expectations that we have of one another as board members. You know, the safety and security of our facility, the safety and security of the assets that we have in this facility, I know are the responsibility of Mr. Placco, Mr. Alasik as our maintenance director. You know, there's multiple things that we have liability for as far as confidentiality, things that could be, I just can't even imagine. And again, the safety and security and the respect that we have, again, for our administration and asking them to do that for us is, again, just paramount. I don't think I would ever come into the building unannounced or without permission, or ask somebody to take me on a tour if that was so desired, so.
So I just want to put, I think I want to make sure that we close the loop on this, so we kind of have some understanding and expectations. We've been talking about expectations of the board and how we work together. So I guess, Mrs. Crafty, what you're asking is that we should, you know, again, if we think we want to come to the school, we want to be, you know, visiting the school, that we're just saying, let the administration know so that there's some awareness that someone's going to be in the building and what's happening.
And by all means, I would imagine that our administrators would volunteer their time to come in.
I don't know if there's any other discussion on that, if that seems like a fair expectation to have.
No.
Any other?
I have nothing further to add.
All right, so there was one other one that you had put on the table, the OHSAA amendments to the Constitution and bylaws. I think you wanted to just kind of, are we okay?
I think we addressed that, but I also just wanted to make sure that if we had things that we wanted to bring to the table in the future, such as this that Mr. Hack has brought to the table, that we actually, it's late timing, it's kind of at the last minute. I know that we discussed it slightly at our last meeting. However, we have a full year to be thinking about what we would like to present for next year's agenda platform. If there's anything that we want to do, I would suggest that we plan ahead.
Well, I guess when I looked at the OHSAA bylaw one, I thought a little different.
I'm sorry,
OHSAA.
Okay.
Is that, I think we need to set an expectation for Dr. Kalis, like what our expectations are, what should come to the board for discussion versus what he can.
Sorry, I am
That's
speaking of
okay.
something completely different. Let me
That's
back
why I want to
up.
double check.
Let me back up. Yes, that one, I had been made aware that our school principal, our high school principal gets to vote on that, and we don't ever see what that platform is, although it is out online that we can go out and look at it and whatever, and I did, but I'm just curious what that is.
Concerted effort with now the new strategic plan, that we really take into consideration the advocacy part of it. And there are some things that are coming down the pike in these different professional organizations that we should probably get the board their set of eyes on.
So is there any way for us to get ahead of that, so it's listed out there so we can get ahead of that?
I get updates on a pretty regular basis. I can forward them to the board. If you're interested in reading them, then we'll probably.
Sound good?
Yeah, no, I think that's key.
Yep. And then if there's one that we think needs to come for further discussion, we can bring it in.
Sorry, I was totally
It's okay. It's okay. I also, anything else on that one?
Too many acronyms.
Right. I also want to just kind of close the loop. So we had the suggestion multiple times in a row now to make our meeting posts available online. So we did post today's meeting online, but I wanted to check with everybody. We posted the general meeting online. So I don't know if we should be posting our committee meetings. I wanted to get the discussion of the board, like should we post committee meetings also? Should it just be once a month, post everything that we have for the month? Like how do we want to do that? So that, again, Nick has good
Yeah,
expectations.
it's my input that if we're looking at transparency, we should probably post all the meetings.
Okay.
I mean, if I think that is an easy to do step that helps get people the information they need to attend the meetings if they would like to.
Ms. Rossi or
I'm
Ms.
fine with
Harden?
that.
Fine with me?
If they are post all at once at one time in the month, like what he knows, is that okay? Or do we think we need to post them a week before? I'm just trying to kind of,
Oh, the ideal, when the meetings are known, they would be posted. There's not so many that it would be difficult to do, no?
I mean, if we just added a checklist, because we do inform media of our meetings.
So just put it out at the same time?
Just add that to the checklist and it's done.
okay, all right. Great. And then the last thing I had was the student liaison, student achievement liaison. I don't know what we've done with this in the past. I don't remember ever discussing it in the couple years I've been on the board, but there is a student liaison, a student achievement liaison in the OSBA, and they've been sending emails to me as the board president, so I don't know if we just want to go with that expectation that I'll represent us, or do we want to put it out and see if anybody wants to take on that liaison role with the OSBA?
So, I'm sorry, I need a little bit more explanation.
So they will talk about different programs and work with other schools to talk about what schools are doing as far as promoting student achievement and try to find ideas to bring to the state in regards to what students are doing. So it's really just working with different board members and leadership groups within the OSBA to talk about vision, accountability, policy, community engagement, public school advocacy, and relationships. So it's kind of like our other liaison roles, like the legislative liaison, where you're kind of looking at what the OSBA puts out and talking to them. It's really that type of a role.
Right. So let me just suggest this, and I guess oftentimes in your liaison report with regard to the superintendent's, I forget what it's called.
The business advisory?
Business advisory committee, that doesn't meet very frequently. Would this be too much of a burden for
No.
you since?
I'm very willing to do it, but I wanted to make sure the board was aware of it and if they had any other suggestions or ways to go.
No,
Okay.
I think that makes sense.
Have a ball. Ms.
To wear a
Grassi?
little tag. When you go to the OSBA.
Mr. Fischel, any?
No, I agree with what you both just said.
All right,
I
perfect.
think that would be wonderful.
Just wanted to make everyone aware. Any other new business? Nope. All right. So that'll take us to the superintendent's, our education committee and liaison reports. So the first one is the superintendent's business advisory liaison. So we have not had a meeting, but we have one scheduled for the 16th of May. Dr. Malacker and Dr. Basic will be co-presenting on new courses, credentialing, and upcoming pre-apprenticeships. So working with our business partners throughout the community. And that will conclude my report. The next one is the Curriculum and Programming Committee, Alumni Association Liaison, Mr. Fischel.
So the Alumni Committee has a Hall of Fame dinner, June 18th at the Holiday Inn on 306. And I believe the final price was $39 a person for dinner. And they have a golf outing scheduled. Right now, the date is September 24th, and that golf outing will be coupled up with Harvey. And there will also be a duck race that is scheduled for October 8th, and that will also be coupled with Harvey. The Alumni Committee is still looking for members, so anyone that's been a graduate, sign up. It's, I think, $25 gives you a lifetime membership. And also some participation to operate the committee. They're looking for a little bit more help, although a few people just joined at the last meeting. And there's a party in the park, again coupled with Harvey, which will be coupled up with the duck race, and that'll be at the Painesville Park, Veterans Park. And I think that's it.
That brings us to Buildings and Grounds Operations Committee and the Legislative Liaison, Mr. Hack.
So we had a meeting on April 4th, and so we talked about a number of things. We got a review of the personnel in the maintenance department in comparison to industry standards. Not in every area are we consistent with industry standards, but for the most part, I think we are in pretty good shape.
Can I just
Sure.
add, like, licensure or like?
Oh, I'm sorry, as far as numbers.
Numbers, okay.
Number of personnel in our maintenance
okay.
department. It's not universal, but overall, we are in okay shape.
Okay.
As far as having the personnel needed to do the job that needs to happen. We did talk about some things that need potential being addressed down the road. It was just discussion. We know that some of the athletic fields need to be addressed one way or the other, so we discussed that, but there is no definitive plan or way forward, but we know that things need to be improved as far as that goes. Some bleacher issues as well. The one thing that we did, which I think is something that will help all of us have more pride in our schools, is we talked about having an outside landscaper come in twice a year, potentially spring and fall, to basically do some of the maintenance work, the trimming and the fine detail on the flower beds and things like that, so that our schools look as good on the outside as they do on the inside. So those were the main things that I have down that we discussed. And more to come on the fields as we, as a board, to figure out how to move forward. And obviously next Tuesday would have a big impact on them as well, or potentially have an impact on them as well. And
Yeah, and I do think the fields are something important. I know one of my friends had reached out to me that I know our varsity baseball team today was the first home game they were able to have. They only had almost a month of cancellations because our drainage is so poor.
And that was one of the things that we discussed. And there is we know it's an issue, we need to address it, and we'll see what happens as we move forward. But we're not blind to some of the things that are of issue. As far as liaison report, that really was the plan.
Okay,
So.
great, thank you. And then Policy Committee, Booster Organization Liaison, Ms. Harden.
We have not met the policy committee. As far as booster organizations, I actually got a text today from a parent who would like to restart the Riverside PTO for the campus. So I spoke to Mrs. Lucas, who said that she could reach out to her because she had worked with them in the past. So it'd be a great thing if we can see a booster group up at the campus again for everyone here. So I'll work with them to make sure they get in contact and get that going.
Thank you. And that brings us to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. I have a few lengthy notes on our thread at Parkside. And I know we're now into the meeting already. There we go. I was going to turn it over to Mr. St. Clair, the principal, if you wanted to give just a synopsis of what had occurred. I do have my notes here. I can make copies of it for the board, but like I said, I was going to read step by step the sequence of events. I think Mr. St. Clair could probably do it in a more expeditious manner.
So I'm on the clock.
You're on the clock.
So Monday morning, as we were checking the messages, we received a voicemail clearly from a young student indicating that there was a bomb placed in Anna Marie Fisher's classroom. At that point in time, the message was dated Sunday, the 24th at 7:16 p.m. How the messages work is the most recent one comes first, and since this one was left on Sunday, we got it about 8:15, 8:20. Mrs. Renderman said, you need to listen to this. At that point, I called Mr. Schlick, and we informed the school resource officer, Deputy Rowland, and that triggered us contacting Chris Illner in the transportation department to divert the buses coming to, as well as the parents who are already en route, and some are actually in the parking lot at Parkside dropping off their kids. We were able to evacuate Latchkey as well as the rest of the staff away from the building. And then staff went over to Skoke Meadow. We found out that the buses were being diverted to Concord Township Hall. At that point in time, the vast majority of our teachers, many of whom are here, went up to Concord Township Hall to be with the kids, help parents check out, sign out if they wanted to. Mrs. Weber was leading that in front while I was with Deputy Rowland and the Concord Township Fire Department. We did a thorough sweep of the building. We also looked at video surveillance. We contacted Rich to see if any alarms had been triggered over the weekend, and we were able to ascertain that there was no entry into the building or any visual evidence of anything of the sort. Contacted Dr. Kalis, who was en route, and Nick Carabine. We sent out a message saying that we're investigating a bomb threat. And then I think it was around 9:30, Nick, we sent a message.
Yeah, the first one was around 8:45, the second one was about an hour later.
Yeah, that we were secure and that the building would be reopened. At that point, we had the buses come to the building. I debriefed the teachers at about 10 o'clock in the morning. When the buses were arrived, we marshaled all the kids into the gym to kind of discuss the situation with them, reassured them that their parents, number one, wouldn't let them come into the building if they didn't think it was safe. Number two, the authorities made sure that the building was safe. And number three, that the school administration, including central office administration, would not have them here. Kids went to class at about 10:15. Had a pretty normal day. I mean, we had about 48% of our students absent, about 250 kids, roughly 265 kids maybe, absent on that day. But I think overall, the response that we were able to get with transportation, the authorities, the fire department, really helped make what was kind of a scary situation for a lot of families and a lot of staff and kids. Made it a good situation, so it worked out really, really well. I received a lot of positive feedback on the amount of communication that we put out, and thankfully, it was just a young student who didn't really realize the ramifications and consequences of a supposed prank phone call. So we're fortunate for that. So does anybody have any questions for me on that in that regard? Is that fast enough?
No, mine would have been shorter.
That is not true.
We had 260 kids call off. They were excused, which you said is about 48% of the population or enrollment over there. What time, the police worked pretty quickly along with Mr. St. Clair in identifying where the number came from. What time was that about?
I would say probably close to 9 o'clock, maybe before that. So we then did reach out to the number. Police were able to kind of backtrack where that number came from, and then we contacted that owner of the number. And we brought the family in. We're actually also able to have the student removed from class and brought down to the office where we did Mrs. Weber and I did a search of the child's book bag to ensure that there was nothing in that. And then, waited for his parents to arrive and Deputy Rowland. So it was pretty, once we figured out where it came from, it was very, very quick.
We knew it was a student's voice. We also had the police through, the fire department through. We also had the number connected to an individual, and we looked at the cameras. In a nutshell, we knew it was safe to go back in, and instead of canceling class and having parents pick up, we gave obviously the opportunity for people to go back into the building. The teachers were great. They helped out a lot. I know a couple of them even stayed back and helped direct some of the parents away from the school as well. A couple things we would probably do differently if we thought it was going to be a little bit longer. We would have taken the students probably back to Riverside here. And the other thing is, I'm going to emphasize to our administrators, it's not such a bad habit to call that line the night before just to see if anything is sitting on. But Mr. St. Clair and the staff did a great job, considering the kids started their instructional day at 9:10. What I have up on the screen are open enrollment numbers. You know, you talk about like 20 years ago, we probably had about 300 students here open enrolled in our district. These are the numbers now. We have a total of 83 for next year. You can see the numbers by building and by grade. As you can see, the numbers start in second grade. It's because last year we didn't take any new enrollment students. And at this point, we would like to make a decision again as to whether or not we're taking any more. Or we have a couple other options that I did send to the board through a Friday packet. One thing I want to make sure of is when people think of open enrollment, they think we're taking a lot. We're not. I mean, if you think about it, we only have 45 in grades 2 through 8 and 38 from 9 through 12. In Riverview, it's getting pretty crowded over there. We only have one open enrolled student over there. So right now, there's a couple things I want to discuss with the board. I'd like to make a recommendation as well, but I figured we can look at some of the different options. Number one is keeping all the current open enrolled students, grade 2 through 12, totaling 83 students, and letting them, you know, work their way through the district without taking any new open enrolled students. The second option was keeping open enrolled students, grades 9 through 12, totaling to 38. Another option is allowing current families that relocate, so like ones that are living here and they move in the summer up to August 25th have the opportunity to continue here. Or do not allow any more families to open enroll and send all the kids back to their home schools. To be perfectly honest with you, I think that last one is cruel, considering we have kids that are here and we've made a commitment to them. I mean, even if you think about the number of 12th graders next year would be 8. I think that would be awful. So I was going to make the recommendation that we keep the 83, and if we want to phase this out, we do it in a matter of 10 years. Slowly but surely, the number's going to get smaller and smaller through attrition and graduation. To cut it off altogether has some financial ramifications as well, and Gary's going to talk about that.
Can I review that now?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's under the old funding formula, the district would receive $6,020 for every kid that open enrolled in, and then for every kid that open enrolled out, you would lose $6,020. Now, under the new Fair School funding plan, it's based on your district's wealth and like it used to be called the state share index. I'm not sure what the official name is now, but you would only get like what your district is funded for your regular kids now. And, we're on a guarantee, which more than muddies the complication as well. So basically right now, there's bringing in additional open enrollment kids would basically bring us in close to zero revenue. But closing open enrollment, there's a penalty built into the guarantee that if your open enrollment drops more than 10%, they take funding away from you. That number of, what's kind of interesting is it's kind of unfair because they don't look at open enrollment out, they just look at open enrollment in. So if your open enrollment out kids come back to you and you lose capacity, and then you start shutting off the in, they're going to penalize you for it. So there's a little bit of penalty built into the funding formula, but there's also a second guarantee in place, which we kind of went over a couple months ago, and it's quite convoluted. That kind of gives us back that money right now. That will end at the end of this biennium. So next year will be kind of kept whole, but after that we could start losing funds if our open enrollment drops off at a certain pace, basically. So it's very convoluted, it's very complicated. We're still trying to wrap our head around everything of how it works. But if we were truly on a formula again, where we weren't in on guarantee, we would essentially get what we get funded per kid under the formula now instead of the $6,020. And we're now just above the 5% floor, so it's 6%. So it's probably around, if we were on the formula, we'd probably get $400 or $500 a kid for open enrollment as opposed to $6,020.
So if I just, should I wait? You have more to talk about, but I do have a question here. When would you like me to ask the question?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I guess when we're talking about longer term, and say we went with option A, the first option, where we kept the current open enrollment in, but we're phasing it out, is there a penalty in the end when we are done, when these group of students graduates from Riverside?
There could be, but we'd have to kind of wait till the next biennium budget is determined to know what those ramifications are. And they could make a change to that rule because it's, when they implemented the Fair School Funding Plan, the goal was to discourage open enrollment. But in reality, that is one of the things they did for districts that are considered wealthier, like Riverside. So in wealthier as opposed, in the terms of property tax valuations and median incomes. So they might, I suspect there's going to be changes to that, but what that looks like, I don't know. But right now, there's a temporary guarantee in place this biennium, so the penalty doesn't really affect us
Today. Okay.
Or next fiscal year. But the
So we made it,
following
I'm
year,
sorry, go ahead.
when the next biennium budget would come around, we'll have to kind of see what that really is.
So we can make a decision today, and then if circumstances change, we could potentially change that decision based on those new indicators.
Yes.
Thank you.
We make this decision every year. We have to make it. So just depending, I mean, that's 5 biennium budgets from now, by the time 10 years rolls around, so.
If you do the math, it's actually 11 if you count the kids from second grade all the way through 12.
You're suggesting the third option?
No, I'm suggesting we just keep the current ones that are already in the pipeline.
But not accept more.
It would depend.
But, I mean, you're talking for the 22-23 year.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking, yeah. I think our focus, obviously, I'm not questioning it, but I think our focus should be on the kids that have committed, and then the financial implications.
What happens if a family has a student like in second grade that's open enrolled and now they have a kindergartner coming in? We're telling them, okay.
So do we have a sense, we went the first one and the third bullet, allowing families that move, but allowing the, is that?
I discussed some of this with our council, and he looks at it as almost expanding the type of open enrollment that we have. The cleanest thing, he said, would be not to do it anymore, just cut it off all completely. But I didn't think that was the right thing to do. So any of these will work. We just have to pick the one that we think is best serves, our district. So I would say keeping the 83 because they're in the pipeline. If someone's moving out of our district, I mean, they have to be aware that they are going to.
They know the implications.
Right. And every year, even with the open enrolled students, there's no guarantee that they're going to be back next year. I have an extenuating circumstance with one particular student. Mom had called, and it's honest to God, it's like breaking my heart that the student can't come back. Those are real tough conversations to have. But it's like a situation where if you got to treat everybody the same. You can't. It's always tough. It is always tough, this open enrollment. It really is.
And Dr. Taylor, this is actually, at the end of the year, you have to look at absences.
We do. There are some requirements as well. The student is suspended 10 or more days. We don't ask them to come back. If it's a situation of attendance, there's a good chance we don't have them come back. Everyone has this idea that students that are open enrolled are coming from other districts and they're causing all kinds of issues. They're not. They know who they were, really, and that's the way we like it. There are students, once they open enroll here. They're responsible for their own transportation. but they're, every other opportunity is available to them in our district. Okay? So we're just gonna go with the first option, correct? We're not taking anyone that moves?
When do we have to vote on that?
That's a good question. Yes.
Just to get full clarity on the third bullet point, do we have a sense of, on average, how many students are in that situation?
Not off the top of my head. Mr. Schlick, who typically deals with this, he might know.
It's got to be fairly de minimis, I would assume.
My understanding, it happens a couple of times a year.
Okay. And that's, but definitely,
We do, just so the board knows, I have to see what, I know, at least with the high school, I think there's Ohio Revised Code on it, actually, I have to look. But if a student is open and enrolled in our district and then moves out, I believe we must keep them in to graduate. I think it's...
It's incoming 12th graders, or if they're a senior status,
Yeah.
we have to keep them
So
for their
that's,
senior year.
so that is kind of like 3, but we're gonna keep.
it's not fully extensive, but it's kind of like true. Okay.
Thank
Right.
you.
Yeah.
All right.
We received a letter from Mrs. Sally S. Green from Tuscarawas Valley School Board. She's a Tuscarawas Valley School Board member. She is the Ohio Board's Northeast Region Executive Member, and she invited the Riverside students to a recognition program for participating in the 2021 Capital Conference Student Achievement Fair. 2 groups were participants at that achievement fair. One was the Recognizing Riverside podcast, and the members are Reagan McNally, Alex Malacher, and Lexi Wade. They're all seniors. And also our side leadership. And our side leadership is Students Initiative for Developing Excellence. And we had participants Michael Keller and Maddie Brown there. So we just wanted to let the board know that, now as we're talking about Achievement Liaison and OSBA, we participated in that actual program, and our students were recognized in Warren maybe about a month ago, Melissa? About a month ago. Melissa also attended and actually took the kids in her car with her.
May or may not know one of them.
A couple of them are here, I think.
The podcast.
Stand up.
Full disclosure, they had to sit through the OSBA meeting before they got their award, and I had to take them all to Dairy Queen.
Well deserved.
Yes.
Can I just say that it was really great to see you guys at the OSBA conference when we were there in November, because it's been a long number of years that we've actually had representation there from our students. So it was super exciting, to see us represented, so thanks for coming.
The other 2 students are not here, correct?
No, one coordinator.
And the other group that I think did that developed the running, they were actually in the OSB update recently. I don't know if you saw the picture. So they were in the OSBA update also.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Oh, good. The running routes? And that's Bryce and Carmela? Sophia.
Yeah.
Bryce and Sophia.
A couple other good pieces of news for our district is we were covered with the Fox 8 on Earth Day. And I was just going to show this segment real quickly if it's at all possible. Nick is going to show this. For those people who weren't able to see this, it's a really nice segment covered by Jen Hartford, who's the meteorologist at Fox 8.
The planet we live on.
And it is never too late to start spreading that message. Just ask, look, Jen here.
How's Earth Day so far? Yeah? Do we love it? Do we love our planet? Do me a big favor. Look right into this camera and say, Happy Earth Day! Olive here.
Oh, very nice.
So I had a chance to stop by Buckeye Elementary in Painesville yesterday, and the students introduced their new greenhouse. for their garden club. They also planted sunflowers, painted rocks, and learned about the importance of protecting the environment. So these students were awesome. They were energized, they were engaged.
Yeah, cool
A great day. So kudos to everybody with this Earth Day event on at Buckeye Elementary, because it was an amazing day for those kids, and they learned a lot, and it's going to continue absolutely throughout summer, into the garden club with that greenhouse. Thank you, Buckeye Elementary. Huge shout out to you. I had a wonderful day, and I really learned a lot.
And they get to take the little plants home and put them in their own garden, so that'll be really nice.
Exactly. They planted sunflowers. I love it.
Very cool. Very cool. I guess this is a day if you want to plant, maybe clean up your garden and do a few things. Not a bad day to do.
Good. If you see some litter, pick it up. Reinvest in our planet. That's the theme for Earth Day. So this weekend would be a great weekend to do.
Arts sophomore Isabella Hodge placed third in the Fine Arts Division of the Singing in the Rain event. The event celebrates all students from Northeast Ohio who have participated in the art project to paint an umbrella. This really does not do it justice. You should see that umbrella up close. It is amazing, absolutely amazing. In fact, out of the art class, they lined them all up and in the media center, and we were able to get a donation and also vote on them. That was my vote, and lo and behold, she won third in this region. It was absolutely stunning umbrella that she painted. Our kids are really talented. Our art program is very strong here at Riverside. Beaver Nation store is now online. Website launched last week. The store that was launched by students in the fall. The principles of business course taught by Mr. Ross. He's not here, is he? Mrs. Ross is though. You can speak for him. How about Jessica Knoll? She's here. Well, she's our intervention specialist here. She's been here since 2017. She received the Franklin B. Walter Outstanding Educator Award, and the award is given to a staff member who makes an extraordinary contribution to the education of students with disabilities. She has a lot of energy. She's also one of our coaches here, and we just wanted to congratulate and recognize her here.
Thank you.
The person on the left is Mrs. Lanning, and the person on the right is Mrs. Augustine. And Jess is in the middle. Easter egg hunt, the first time in 3 years we were able to have it. We just wanted to have a shout out to the RPTA for again starting this program up again, this event. Kids had a great time, as you can see. There are eggs everywhere. It was held on Saturday, April 9th, and a lot of kids had a lot of fun. I remember a few years back when I was attending one of the kids had he wore his cleats because he wanted to be able to get around to run around and pick up eggs. I don't know if anyone wore cleats this time around, but it was well attended. And thank you to all the people that were involved with the RPTA making that possible. Last but not least, I have Dr. Malacher is going to give just a brief description of our summer school, or at least an announcement that we are having summer school this year.
Surprise. No, we wanted to let you know that we are going to run a summer school program again this summer for kindergarten through 8th grade. It will be students will qualify much like they did last year. So we're going to still work to address some of the maybe gaps in learning and the learning loss that occurred because of the pandemic. We do have some money left in our ESSER fund to work on the learning loss issue. So we thought continuing to provide some summer school programming would be good. We're also going to run our credit recovery programs at the high school for 9th through 12th graders that did not pass all of their courses to be promoted to the next grade level. What we will not do this year at the high school level There will not be transportation for high school students. We will only be transporting K through 8. K through 8 is going to take place either at Riverview or at Parkside. So based on where students' homes are, we will divide them that way. And they'll be, K through 8 will be in the elementaries. 9 through 12 will not be required to be on campus. So we'll run our credit recovery courses asynchronously. We are going to, however, hire a teacher from each discipline, so one social studies, one science, one math, and one English teacher to be here on campus. If students need to come up and get tutoring or get assistance with their assignments, we will have somebody available from Tuesday, on Tuesday, Thursday, Fridays from 9 to 12, so the kids can come up, but they will have to get their own transportation up here. So similar to last year, but not exactly the same. So just letting you guys know that in May, you'll see some of those hires. Obviously, we'll be hiring K through 8 teachers, and then the 4 teachers up here. Our asynchronous teachers will also be on the agenda, and those will, I would assume, will be the same teachers that have been teaching the courses throughout the year.
And then last month, we also discussed kind of getting an assessment of the learning gap. And I know that with testing coming up, that we will get something of a debrief next month.
Yes, so this year, happily, I suppose, we're going to get the state test results starting the second week of May, which has never happened before. So we'll have some end of the year data to look at that I can add to that sheet. And then we can take a look at, also by the end of May, we'll have the final MAP scores. So we'll really have a complete picture of where we are 2 years after we shut down the school.
And clearly, we were all impacted by something that none of us control, but there are repercussions of that, and anything we can do to narrow that gap and have a Riverside diploma mean, you know, what it means in 2019 to what it means today is important for us to do. So, thank you.
Dr. Kalis, anything else?
That concludes my report.
All right, that brings us to the treasurer's report and committee update. So Finance and Audit, Personnel Committee, and Strategic Plan Liaison, Mrs. Grassi.
I don't have anything to report on the strategic plan except that it's on the agenda for approval. So that's awesome. Finance and Personnel Committee, we had a meeting on April 21st at 8 a.m. We started off with personnel updates and, you know, some of the things that we're going to be doing for the summer and summer hires, and we talked about some of those positions. We reviewed the items on our Finance Committee agenda. Mr. Platko had put some, he had put in or applied to be the fiscal agent for the Lake County School Healthcare Consortium, and apparently someone else was chosen to be that, so we had an update on that. We talked about additional deputies that we're going to try and get here for the next school year, and we talked about how that affects the folks that are at our front entrance. We had the audit report that was released, if anybody wants some bedtime reading. It's 96 pages. It's thrilled. So that was out there, and we do have the 5-year forecast that will probably be on the next agenda for the May meeting that we have on May 10th. It is the 10th, right? 10th?
I believe so.
Okay.
Or 11. 10th or 11.
It's that week, which is a little bit early, but we're having it because, again, I'm not going to be here for the last 2 weeks of May. We talked about the potential of adding an assistant treasurer to our district, which I'm sure as the time gets closer to asking for that position, Mr. Placker will have some additional information that he can share. And then we went over the cash balance policy, and that was it. Anything else?
An update from the treasurer.
All right, wanted to share with the board and the community tonight that we received an award from the Treasurer of State called the Compass Award. The Compass, there was a press release for February that came out that said the Ohio Treasurer, Robert Sprague, has announced the Compass Award honorees for the month of February. The monthly recognition program commends organizations, programs, and individuals across the state who are working to guide Ohioans towards financial literacy, education, and empowerment. And for Riverside Local Schools, they specifically talk about beginning in 6th grade, students explore careers in real-world application through interactions with people from their community. As students in our high school, they continue their college career exploration coursework and experience work-based learning opportunities. Other instructions provided to teach students how to make positive decisions related to managing their income, as well as standalone personal financial management course. So, you know, one of the career courses in the middle school I was able to attend and present earlier this year, which was a fun experience, and you know, based on a cancellation from the other financial professional that I had. So it was a little fun to be part of that process, and kind of, you know, gave the kids some trivia questions on, you know, how much we spend on diesel fuel, and tried to have them guess what it was. And, you know, it was kind of interesting to see what they came up with. On tonight's finance agenda, we're approving the addition of an SRO to our districts. We'll have two full-time district-wide school resource officers. It's written on the agenda tonight to authorize that addition, but we're working with legal to update the sheriff's office contract, so that will get approved at a later meeting, but we needed that to have something formalized so the Lake County can start that process to find that individual. Boiler update for Duluth Middle School. On the agenda is to approve one more month of the temporary boiler that's in place out in the parking lot. As you know, we bid out the project to replace the boilers earlier this year, and construction will start this summer. With the contract has been signed by the construction manager, and we have a pre-construction meeting on May 5th to discuss the project and how it moves forward. And then lastly, you know, we mentioned we're a member of the Lake County Schools Council for our health insurance benefits. The General Assembly earlier this week approved a premium holiday for the month of June. So what that means is basically we don't pay we're self-insured for health insurance, and basically the month of June they're going to skip collecting premiums. So the district won't need to pay, and of course with several teachers here, there will be no payroll deductions for their portion of those premiums in June. Usually I'd send an announcement closer to June when that time comes, but with so many attendants, I thought it was appropriate to share that good news tonight. That concludes my report.
Thank you. All right, and that brings us to public participation. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Education will be recognized by the Board President. Speakers are requested to identify themselves and their topic, and comments are limited to 3 minutes. Any public participation?
We need the timers set first.
Oh, 1 second, we're...
Okay. All right. I'm Barbara Morris. I live here in Concord Township. I have had 3 children graduate from here, and I have 3 grandsons who are presently enrolled within the school system. I have serious concerns about what you're talking about progressing with putting a new school up. I've worked in the building industry for many years, and I am aware of how all the planning goes for major projects and what is necessary for making them come about. I also would like to ask a few questions. The viability of putting up a new school and tearing down the old school really leaves a wall of questions for me. You have a basically secure building here that, yes, needs some major work. I understand that. However, has that aspect been checked to see what the cost of refurbishing this part of the building and add additional classrooms to it will help rather than hinder? My second question is, has anybody really looked at what this economy is doing? And are you aware of the rapid rate that all of the products needed to build a school are rapidly rising? Having been in the building industry and having to order them, this is astronomical to me. I have never seen products skyrocket as these have. I really think that this system needs to be checked out, and you need to find out what other viable situations are there. Because if you're going to add, in round figures, $250 per $100,000 to the homes in the Concord Township, there are going to be a lot of people that aren't going to be able to afford to stay there. Many of us are retired. I'm all for school education, and I back it all of the time. But I think we should make a better judgment of what you're trying to build.
Al Adams, 6868 Milton Drive in Leroy. My topic is not the levy. What I did want to do is thank the board for posting the board meeting on social media, because it's not the same 6 to 8 of us that have been here for the last few months. This is spectacular. I don't think this is the result of that, but I'm glad to see everybody here. I'd also like to thank Mr. Placco for fixing the slide so rapidly when we pointed it out to him that was at the meetings. And I did just have one question that I'd asked in the last meeting. When you gave the information about the fair funding at the meeting where you put the levy on the board, should have brought water, Mr. Placco had shown the slide where there was 2 temporary funding issues. They both said temporary, one was permanent, one was going to go away. Mr. Hack did the quick math and said basically over the next 6 years, it was going to dissolve 10% of the operating budget. And somebody was going to get back to me, I haven't yet. So I'd like to bring that up again because I think that's an important issue. Like I said, not everybody's been here for all the meetings, and that was something that was brought up right before the levy went up. And I'd just like to know, because at the one informational meeting, the last thing I heard was if legislation stayed the same, there wouldn't be an issue. It should be great, but it's got to be one or the other. So, and also I have no vote. I second an assistant treasurer because understanding school funding is some kind of wizardry that nobody can understand, and I've tried. So I appreciate what is being done up there, but if you can get help for him, you should.
Thank you. Any other public participation?
Hi, Kathy Fischel, Concord Township. It's nice to see all the teachers here tonight. I have a bit of a concern, and I'm loving everything that we're seeing on here. I see that we're on TV, with our kids on TV, how fun for them. I had a son that was on TV when he was in school. What I would really like to make sure doesn't happen is that our school is on TV because somebody did something nefarious. And I don't know, you might all know, that we had a video that was posted a couple weeks ago that some of the people here were walking around the school, but one of the main things that they said right at the beginning was, we're unsecure here. I don't have it word for word. We're unsecure here. Anybody that wants to come in and do anything can come in and do something. I saw it, my heart dropped. I'm going to tell you, my stomach was sick. That was pulled down because Mr. Fischel called Mr. Kalis, and Mr. Kalis said, yeah, I kind of saw it, kind of questioned it a little bit, but he went ahead and he posted it. That put you all at risk, and more important, our students at risk. If somebody, I mean, look, we just had a bomb threat the other day. If somebody would have saw that had any intention to do harm to this school, they had a license because we posted it right on YouTube for all to see. So my question is, and it's not a question that needs to be answered, but last month we talked about a 911 call that wasn't able to go out of certain buildings in the district for 2 years. 2 years. And it's fixed. My question is, what is going on? How are you protecting our kids, and not only our kids, but your staff and these teachers? I don't ever want to see something on TV like we've seen in the past. That's all I have to say.
Any other public participation?
My name's Caroline. I'm a senior here at Riverside, and I'm just going to read and try not to put you to sleep. So I wasn't sure if I was going to say anything this evening, but I feel like I owe it to my teachers to show my support. Through the 5 years I spent in this building, I've watched numerous changes occur, some positive and others not so much. One thing I would like to bring to attention, with all due respect, is the reason this school still has any credibility, still has students walking through these halls, is certainly not because of our facilities. The reason that this school is still standing is because of the teachers and administrators that put in a constant effort to keep it going. The teachers that get here hours before they have to and don't leave right when that bell rings. You are fortunate enough to still have teachers that are here for more than a paycheck, ones that would do anything for their students, ones that watch over us and ask us when they see something is off, ones that stick their neck out to ensure that we are getting everything we need to be successful after we leave here. And administrators that take time out of their day to interact with us when they have a spare moment. To name a few, Ms. Howery, Mr. Bioni, Mr. Lark, Ms. Cavell, Ms. McIntyre, Mr. Huffman, Dr. Bassich, and Mr. Liatzos. The list could go on, but these are just some that have directly impacted my life. And taken the time to check up on us, teach us life lessons from their own experience, to step away from curriculum for a second and just take care of us. To them, we're more than a statistic, more than a number, or another kid just passing through. You are fortunate enough to still have educators in our building that they just want to take care of us. And I fear that in the next few years, if you guys aren't careful, you're going to lose that. It's hard to find people that are doing this job to directly impact us. I mean, we're it. We're your future. The next 10 to 20 years, I mean, we're going to be your doctors, your lawyers, your teachers. All of that, that's us. And the experiences that we have in this school will directly impact the people we turn out to be. And I can't thank the teachers that I've had enough for taking the time to shape me into the person that I am. And I hope that you guys are appreciating and doing enough for your staff and giving them a place to do that job that they do so well. Because, I mean, we don't have the best school. We don't. And there's things I don't know and I don't understand because I'm a kid and I can't possibly begin to understand the financials that go into building a new school. But I do know that when someone asks me if I like where I attend school, it's not because of the building and it's not because of the space, it's because the people that have taken the time out of their lives to try and better mine.
Thank you. Any other public participation? Yes. One moment. Go ahead.
So, my name is Amy Zarin. I live in Concord Township. What a wonderful speech. So, excellent. You're a hard act to follow. So, I was almost going to sit down and say no. But you should consider running for school board. That's probably your future. So, I have 3 children in the district. I have 2 at this campus, and I have 1 at Parkside. So my first thing I want to say is I want to thank the whole Parkside staff, including Mr. St. Clair. My daughter is in Miss Fisher's class, and she was not scared at all. She didn't even know what was going on. She was so calm, A+ for all the staff. I felt bad for Mr. St. Clair, though, that day. He was chasing his umbrella at school drop-off time, so A+, excellent. The other thing I want to discuss is in relation to the levy. I'm not here to talk for the levy or against the levy, but what I'm here to talk about is there's a case involving the Bellevue Sugar Creek schools from 2021. And those school board members were 2 involved in the levy. 2 involved in the levy, the school board was. And they determined that it swayed the decision too much of the voters. And what happened, most school districts from the Ohio State School Board Association, I've been a former school board member, so they've been advised to have their levy committee run everything. And what I've seen on social media has been poor boardsmanship. And what I've seen here has been some more poor boardsmanship with laughing, rolling the eyes, and the name calling on some certain board members, which I'm not going to name out of due respect, is just wrong. And then parental rights, I wasn't planning to talk about that, but yes, if this district can't show any parent what they want to discuss, shame on you. I'm a parent. If you can't open up any textbook and tell me what my kids are learning, no. And I do agree the teachers are making a huge sacrifice here, and they are committed to the students, but so are the parents. That's it.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm Alex Malacher. I'm also a senior here at Riverside. I'm going to do some reading too. All the statements come from a flyer posted on Chris Weiss's Facebook with his name at the bottom of the flyer. I feel the people who have fallen victim to the endless spread of misinformation deserve to hear these statements put up to reality. So to start off the flyer, we have the statement of that the school needs renovations rather than a new building. In reality, simply renovating the school is not as simple as it seems. The Ohio Facilities Construction Committee projected the cost of renovations to exceed 2/3 the cost of building new. On top of that, renovations do not accommodate things such as new safety advancements, technology advancements, creative art, or career tech areas, and that's just for starters. With new school comes all these things that improve our learning environment, an experience that would not happen with mere renovations. Moving on to the next statement, the district has no idea what they're doing in aspects of blueprints and building plans. In reality, it would be clear that again, we have visible proof, this time in the form of 2 elementary schools. The cost of detailed building plan would be roughly $10 million. This school's money is such a concern, we should understand that it makes most sense to pass a levy first and then plan accordingly. This is what was done for Parkside and Riverview, and there were no issues. Moving on, the statement, the study being used to support this project was first from 2013, 9 years outdated were the words on the flyer. This is at best a guess of what it would cost. In reality, first off, I find it ironic that the flyer has 9 years outdated in big, bold, all capitalized red letters. But for some reason, a school that is turning 73 years old and will be the oldest school in Lake County following Fairport's new school apparently just needs some renovations. But that's beside the point. If I'm not mistaken, the 2013 study that is in reference was how the original issue 1 was developed, which states in 2013 the building was inspected by the Ohio Facilities Construction Committee. Following this inspection, the high school campus was ranked poor in 4 sections and borderline in 2. The 9-year report is so outdated, imagine what the school would be ranked as in these sections now. The statement, considering the inflation, gas prices, the supply chain, etc., now is not the time for a huge tax increase. In reality, the flyer continues to push the agenda of this tax cost being outrageous. If you look at the bottom of these flyers, there's a web address to a GoFundMe with a goal of $30,000. Requesting donations for what? It does not say it on the GoFundMe page. So the thought process here to combat a flyer deems as huge tax increase is to ask people to donate money to a cause with a goal of $30,000. Just to be clear, to combat a tax increase for a new school, there's a request for monetary donations from people. The best part is there are people donating upwards of $1,000 at a time. People who are complaining about this tax increase are donating more money in a day than they would for an entire year if their house costs $500,000. That's based off of the $15.66 per month per $100,000 housing. It appears this is a very affordable increase based on these donations. Lastly, I would like to point out that as you drive through Kansas City, you will see countless vote no signs. What are these signs doing in the city?
Keep going.
Okay. Thank you.
Participation? Yes?
Good evening. My name is Jamie Field, and I'm here to speak on behalf of our LEA in regards to the actions of Mr. Scott Fischel related to the bond issue. First and foremost, Mr. Fischel cast a vote to deny voters in this community a chance to make a decision that would impact their families themselves. He wanted to deny them the right to make that decision. Regardless of political affiliation, voting is the structural foundation of a democracy, a representative democracy. If ever a question regarding what is best for our community, it should be ultimately our community that makes that decision, not one member of our community. Mr. Fischel used this position on the BOE and his anti-tax viewpoint to prevent voters to have a say on this issue. Tyrants use their authority of their office to impose their will upon those that they are meant to serve. This attitude and mindset has no place on a school board. Additionally, our LEA became aware of a specific circumstance where Mr. Fischel entered the home of a community member without invitation and refused to leave without being forced out. These circumstances left them feeling intimidated and harassed. Not only has Mr. Fischel used his position to try to stifle the will of the voters of Riverside Local School District, but he also intimidated and harassed those whose viewpoints are different from his. This behavior is unacceptable. It is anti-American and clearly not respectful of the Constitution of the United States. He should resign immediately in embarrassment. Support for school issues or political issues should not open one to be harassed by an elected official in their home.
Thank you.
Elected officials are charged with representing all voters, not only those that agree with them, and should be held to a higher level of ethics and behavior. RLEA denounces Mr. Fischel's actions. By all means, the voters of this district can and must exercise their vote and show what they want on all issues. It is our God-given right as Americans. Attacking someone over their personal choice is exactly the un-American behavior that should not be tolerated. We demand that Mr. Fischel stop this reckless and irresponsible behavior. Our Board of Education and all members should be focused on making Riverside a better place, not attacking and tearing down members of our community, simply trying to participate in their school district. Thank you.
Mr. Weiss, I thought you had your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Christian Weiss of Leroy Township. I'm here to speak out and call for the taxpayers to vote no on issue 1 next Tuesday on Election Day. This is arguably for most people the largest tax decision of the rest of your life. The school district put this issue on the ballot after the school board decision was split 3 votes to 2 with Mr. Hack and Mr. Fischel voting no and giving valid reasons not to proceed. They opine that the existing buildings are sound and that necessary renovations can be completed for far less than the $283 million with interest that issue 1 represents. They also stated that due to inflation, supply chain issues, a war in Europe, and other factors would push the cost of the project beyond $147 million by possibly 30% or more. 3 board members voted yes to place this on the ballot, and the district has run a campaign to mislead the voters into believing that the buildings are in too poor a condition to maintain and must be rebuilt. The Teachers Political Action Committee, known as the Kids Committee, has spent over $20,000 on billboard signs and direct mail. The Kids Committee is funded by 120 teachers and faculty through payroll deductions, funding over $941 per month. 63 of the 120 teachers don't live in the district. The Kids Committee and the school district failed to disclose to the voters many relevant facts regarding the issue and may have used school resources to support this. They failed to disclose the amount is not $147 million. It's a bond issue and the true cost is over $283 million, including interest at an expected rate of 4% APR over 37 years. They created not one single blueprint or preliminary study drawing, and they claim it would cost $10 million to create the drawings. You don't have to create the complete set of construction drawings to do a study of what the relevant costs will be, and they failed to do that. We don't know what they're going to build, okay? They can't even show us an artist's concept of what they want to build. They claim the buildings are in poor condition, yet have not offered any proof that a reasonable person would conclude that. In addition, 2 of the 4 decommissioned buildings from Phase 1 were sold to a charter school that ultimately competes with the district for students, and they're both still operated as schools. The bond levy does not provide for ongoing operation of the district, nor does it pay teacher and faculty salaries, bus drivers, or upgrade the bus fleet. Those issues will ultimately have to be dealt with in another levy request in the near future. The district claims ongoing maintenance costs are rising and only earmarks $250,000 a year out of a $44 million budget to maintenance of Riverside and John R. The maintenance director failed to discover a water leak and make repair until the district received a $30,000 water bill when the water problems in the bathrooms were known to exist. Several faculty members created a video which was published to YouTube that directly disclosed weaknesses in the school's security, thereby putting the deputy sheriff resource officer and students and faculty at unnecessary risk. We need only look at our neighbors at Page and City and realize, do not make a better school!
Any other public participation? Yes.
To your left.
I got it. Over here.
My name is Kelly Javorek. I live at 7350 High Bluff Court in Concord, which you probably already know because that information was posted on Facebook by yours truly.
It's a public document.
I would like to start by asking all of those who gladly donate a portion of their paycheck to the Kids Committee to stand for my statement. If you're already standing, please raise your hand. As an association, RLEA is devoted to our membership, their well-being, and the well-being of their families. The unacceptable events that transpired on Saturday, April 23rd, could have resulted in serious consequences for our members and their families. Since the action taken by Mr. Christian Weiss on that day, RLEA leadership has fielded countless calls, text messages, and emails from members who are concerned for their safety. Mr. Weiss and Mr. Fischel have been public and open in their desperate opposition to Issue 1. Through a public records request, Mr. Weiss obtained a list of teachers who made donations to the Kids Committee, which stands for Keep Improving District Schools, and published their addresses online, encouraging the public to contact them. While RLEA fully supports the rights and freedoms given to us by the U.S. Constitution and the rights of citizens to request matters of public record, we are appalled by the actions of Mr. Weiss. Additionally, we wonder if Mr. Fischel was involved in these events as well. Our issue is not with Mr. Weiss sharing the names of members, all of whom gladly provide financial support to their community and the school district that they work in, whether or not they live here. But sharing members' home addresses is a step too far. Because he can share this information does not mean that it is justified or ethical. In today's polarized climate and with the sharp rise in aggressive behavior towards teachers nationwide, we believe Mr. Weiss acted inappropriately. Making personal information public can lead to real consequences for our members, and as such, we condemn Mr. Weiss's actions. While technically legal, this act was underhanded and malicious, and again, we can't help but wonder if Mr. Fischel was involved. RLEA acknowledges that bond and levy issues can lead to strong feelings from all parts of the community, regardless of status. However, we fail to see the controversy of RLEA members providing financial support to an issue that will have positive effects for so many in the community. RLEA represents members with differing viewpoints, much like what is found within our community, but we are unified in our support of student learning and outcomes. Support of the Kids Committee is a personal choice by members that believe in the children of this community and the value of their future. Thank you.
Public participation?
Hi everyone, I'm Alexis Wade. My mom is actually the media center specialist here, and Cindy Adams is my grandmother, also treasurer of the Kids Committee. Very proud.
Comment there. I am the treasurer. I am not Chris, an agent.
So I'm going to be concluding Alex's speech. So, to wrap things up, I hope following this we can all start to understand that we do not need to listen to people whose goal is to spread fear, hate, and misinformation just to fit their agenda. As a student that goes to this school and walks these halls, and who has also walked the halls of South High School's new building and many other modern schools, I can confidently say that this issue is very important. Kids deserve the opportunity to get the best education and learning experience possible. It doesn't end there. The teachers who spend 40 hours a week just in the classroom deserve this more than anyone. The teachers who take care of your kids' education. The teachers who build relationships with your kids. The teachers who, when your kid is being extra quiet, make sure that they're okay. The teachers who fight for us day in and day out. They deserve this. It's time we fight together and start to look at the facts and do what is right for your kids, my classmates, our teachers, and our community. Thank you.
Where were y'all for the last 6 months of board meetings?
Hey, can I get my time back for that? Time's up. Time's up, buddy.
Hello, my name is Matt Ozinga. I live and work here in Riverside Local Schools. My sons go here too.
Tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the RLEA related to Mr. Hack's resolution letter to the OSBA. It's the position of RLEA that this resolution answering the call, OSBA's call to action regarding parental right to know, is redundant and that we suspect is backed by far-right political interests under the guise of parental rights to know. Such an item, even without a political agenda, requires input and buy-in from all those it affects. As it does not include this input and buy-in, the RLEA calls for the Board of Education to reject the proposal. Any proposal or proposition, the board can propose anything that it wants, and that requires, I got ahead of myself. Any proposal or position the board makes that requires RLEA to participate in any board member's political leanings will be flatly rejected by the RLEA. Further, any proposal or position that requires action beyond negotiated agreement between the BOE and the members of RLEA will be met with complete resistance and noncompliance. Any proposal or position that politicizes our classrooms will be met with complete resistance and noncompliance, even if it is under the guise of parental right to know. Any proposal or position that furthers the political leanings and ambitions of any board member in any amount will be met with complete resistance and noncompliance. The teachers of RLEA insist on being allowed to do their jobs, which is teach the kids of the school district, free from political interference. We're passionate about our abilities to meet the needs of our students, and will fight on behalf of our members to work in an environment free of partisan politics. The RLEA does not participate in partisan politics on behalf of its members. Our positions, endorsements, and decisions are driven by a belief in the value that our teachers bring to the entire school district community. The Board of Education needs to be prepared for absolute resistance from the RLEA at any attempt to turn our classrooms and schools into political battlegrounds. In closing, the members of the Board of Education need to continue focusing on doing the business of the school district. Partisan activism and political ambitions have no place in our school district. Thanks.
Participation.
I do not.
Seeing hands? Okay. Thank you, everyone. All right, so that takes us to the consent agenda part of our evening. So the first consent agenda is finance and audit.
Yes, we have a motion to approve the items listed on the finance and audit consent agenda as recommended by the treasurer, items A through M.
A second.
Thank you. As part of that, we always read our donations, and we'd just like to thank Achieving Dreams LLC for donating $500 to the Riverside Junior Council for prom. On that, is there any other discussion on any of these agenda items? All right, well then, Mr. Placco, can you call the roll?
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Lori Kniske.
Aye.
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consent agenda for personnel.
Sure, we have a motion to approve the items listed on the personnel consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, items A through F. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on these items? All right, Mr. Placco, can you call the roll?
Lori Kniske.
Aye.
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consent agenda for curriculum and programming.
Motion to approve the items listed on the curriculum and programming consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent. Any discussion? Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
It's items A through G, correct?
Yes.
That would be A through G, correct. Can you call the roll?
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Lori Kniske.
Aye. Motion carried. Consent agenda for buildings and grounds and operations.
Motion to approve the items listed on the Buildings and Grounds consent agenda, items A and B, as recommended by the superintendent. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? May you call the roll, please?
Scott Fishel?
Aye.
Belinda Grassi?
Aye.
Jennifer Harden?
Aye.
Lori Kniske?
Aye.
Tom Heck?
Aye.
Motion carried. That brings us to additional items, the strategic plan. Mrs. Grassi, as the liaison, would you like to read it?
I would love to read it. We have a resolution to approve the new Riverside Local School District Strategic Plan effective through the 25-26 school year. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Just some commentary. I would like to thank everybody who participated in doing that strategic plan and putting that together. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of effort. We've been asking for that for a long time. I'm thrilled. If there's no other discussion, can we call the roll?
Belinda Grassi?
Aye.
Jennifer Harden?
Aye.
Lori Kniske?
Aye.
Tom Heck?
Aye.
Scott Fishel?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, the other one we moved, the OSBA we moved. And that brings us to Board of Education updates.
Yeah, I have something. So on April 8th, I attended the OHSAA Better Together, a summit on diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging. And so it was down in Columbus. There were approximately 200 people who attended, broken down into 4 sessions. I was able to stay for 3 of those 4 sessions. I will tell you the ones I attended. In the morning session, the first one I attended was called Edison 1. It was in Edison 1. The Gender Unicorn, Demystifying the LGBTQIA plus spectrum. In the second session, I attended the Anti-Racism Alliance. And in the fourth session, or the third session, I attended the Fundamentals of DEI. So, you know, in the interest of time, I do have some comments. You know, the second one, racism is definitely not acceptable anywhere. So that was good. On the first one, the Gender Unicorn, Demystifying the LGBTQ. While people certainly have the right to pursue their life as they see fit, there are other issues that come up with that or become involved with that. But what I really want to talk about, and obviously we have a lot of divisions, as is shown by today's meeting. And what I liked about the DEI event, it was presented by the DEI coordinator, engagement officer, really, for the Cavaliers. And what he talked about was really kind of resonating with me. And maybe there's some things that we can all learn from this. We're gonna have a decision point by the voters on May 3rd, and you know, then we will move forward accordingly. But what he said, diversity for the for the sake of diversity and inclusion for the sake of inclusion, that doesn't make any sense to me. But what he talked about is number one, we're you know, look around the room, we don't have a very diverse room in one measure, but we have an incredibly diverse room by almost every other measure. Where you live, your backgrounds, your interests, your likes, what you're good at, what you're not good at. We are incredibly diverse. This board is diverse, even though we may all have similar skin color. So diversity for diversity's sake is not, you know, any group is going to be diverse, I guess is the bottom line with that, right? So the Cavaliers have 5 different, a total of 5 different organizations under them. There's a team down in Canton, they own the Monsters, and 2 other teams. And looking at parity within the organization, they didn't really have it. The Cavs had great office space and everything, but the other teams, really, you know, even though they're part of the same organization, they had much inferior facilities. They addressed that. They improved that, trying to have a vision everybody can buy into and working to that vision. The other thing they wanted to do, which also resonated with me, they wanted to increase their fan base. And so what do? You figure out the part of the society, the dollars, really, they're after the sports dollar, right? They looked at the sports dollars that they wanted to have more impact on or get more customers from, and they put together a team that reflected that. When I was at MBA school, one of the things that resonated with me about having diversity, if you have widget A and you're an American company and you want to market it down in Peru, by golly, you better have somebody on your team, a diverse team, who understands Peru, right? Or you're going to do something stupid. That was the same thing that they did. When they want to engage with the segments of the population they didn't have, where they wanted to grow their sales, they brought people in from that. There are ways that we can work together. We do have a decision point on May 3rd. Things are set. We will find out what happens. But Riverside, I've been on the board now. I'm in my 3rd term, my 11th year. We've gone through some really challenging times and some really great times. And I am hopeful that after May 3rd, we will respect whatever the voters say. We will move forward. And where it makes sense, there's always going to be tension, right? There's always going to be tension between the people who have to write the checks and people who are part of the organization that do the work. There's always going to be tension. But looking at the possibility of coming together as a community, as a school, I hope that we pursue that, and I think we'll be successful. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different aspects of diversity. There's things that we can do. Let's find the things that unite us and not divide us, and let's move forward together, because we do have a great institution. And many of the people in this room, you are the reason that we have a great institution. As I said before, my kids went here. I graduated from here in '82. Riverside is good, right? There are going to be issues, but let's focus on those things that unite us, and let's move forward together. Thank you.
I'd like everybody to know, I signed up for a class on May 11th, Equity in Education, Equality versus Equity. So it's out there on the OSBA if anybody wants to join that. I think it's like an hour over lunchtime. So just something else that the OSBA is putting out there for us. Anything else?
I just want to thank everyone for coming. It's nice to see people in the room.
Great. So we have a motion to adjourn to executive session at 9:07 p.m. Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Placco, did you call the roll? Aye. Oh, sorry. For personal matters, appointment and/or employment, compensation, security arrangements. Sorry, can you call the roll? Aye. 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 Motion carried.